Hello everyone. So we are going to start with chapter 2 of Science and Technology book. In the last session, we have discussed about the cell and its basic components. We have talked about what is cell, what it is made up of. We have talked about the different cell organelle and the related concepts in it. Okay. So in the previous video, we have seen about one fundamental part of the cell. It's a structure. We have talked about the DNA, RNA and all other related aspects. Now, we are going to start with chapter 2. So this first chapter of cell nucleic acid and cell division we have discussed in the first video. Now, in this second session, we are going to discuss about the biomolecules and the metabolites. Okay. So we are going to see the different important concepts related to this chapter. Here we will be basically talking about the different types of the nutrients or the biomolecules which are present inside inside our body, their role, and also where they can be found. At the same time, we will also try to find on see one very important aspect of it. If there is a deficiency of any such biomolecule, then what can be the impact? Like you might have seen various questions about the deficiency of certain vitamins or certain minerals and the related diseases which are there. Okay. So we will see also from that angle. So let us first start with the very first thing. What exactly is a biomolecule? What we call exactly as a biomolecule. Now see, biomolecule is basically any such molecule that is present in the living organism. Okay. Any such molecule which is present in the living organism is what we simply call as biomolecule. Okay. What is included there? Like we can talk about the proteins, the carbohydrates, the lipids, the nucleic acids, okay, the DNA, RNA. Basically, these are all combined together called as the biomolecules. Okay. And now, among those biomolecules, we have one very important part, that is simply our carbohydrate. Okay. So we are going to see about this carbohydrate, that what exactly it is made up of. Okay. Now, if we talk about the carbohydrates, okay, see, carbohydrates are the, you can say that they are the naturally occurring substance. If you see any living organism, you will find that the majority of the biomolecule which is there, it is either the carbohydrates or maybe the proteins. Okay. So carbohydrate is one of the major biomolecule present in any living organism. Now, if you look at the carbohydrate, okay, some of them are simply called as sugar. Some of them has been simply called as sugar. Okay. Whereas, like might have seen, we have various type of popular sugar in our home, like we have sucrose, we have fructose, lactose. Okay. So they are the common names which we can find in our vicinity, or if you are simply reading anything about these carbohydrates, you might be aware about these names. Okay. So we will see about these carbohydrates, that what are they. Okay. See, one of the, like if we talk about, they can be classified into monosaccharides, oligosaccharides and polysaccharides. Okay. So according to their structure, they can be divided into these. Okay. But then we have to see some of the common carbohydrates and their functions in the body. Okay. The first such carbohydrate is cellulose. Okay. Now, if we talk about this cellulose, this is something which is occurring exclusively in plants. Okay. So it is found only in plants, and it is the most abundant organic substance in the plant kingdom. When we are talking about the plants, the most abundant carbohydrate which is occurring there, that is simply our cellulose. Okay. Now, even if you look at, like in the last video, we have talked about plant cell. There also I have told you about this, that the plant cell is also made up of cellulose. Okay. So that is also one important part. The plant cell, it is having one predominant constituent, which is again our cellulose. Okay. Now, if we talk about the second important carbohydrate, that is starch. Okay. Now, if we talk about the starch, now you can see that they are the most frequently found carbohydrates in the nature. Okay. And they are serving as the building blocks or the food storage. The food is stored in form of starch. Okay. Now, if we talk about the plant cells, in case of plant cells, you will find that the food is stored in form of starch. Whereas in case of animals, the food is stored in form of glycogen. When we were discussing about the classification of the plant cell and the animal cell, we have seen there that the food in the plant cell is stored in the form of starch, whereas in the case of the animal cell, it is stored in form of glycogen. Okay. So now, if we talk about this starch, you can see that in the cereals, in the roots, the tubers, vegetables, they are quite much rich in starch. The another important carbohydrate is glycogen. Okay. And glycogen is in the form, glycogen is that form of carbohydrate in which the food is, or the carbohydrates are stored in form of, stored in case of animals. Like in case of plants, we have seen they are storing carbohydrate in form of starch. Okay. In the similar manner, if we talk about the animals, they are storing it in form of glycogen. Okay. Now, the liver, the muscles, the brain, they are all consisting of this glycogen. Okay. Even the yeast and the fungi, they are also containing this glycogen. And the enzymes which are there, the various catalysts which are there in our body, they are converting this glycogen into glucose. Whenever the body is requiring it, the glycogen is going to be converted into glucose so that body can meet its energy requirement. Okay. So that is another form of major carbohydrate which can be seen in the nature. Okay. Now, if we talk about the importance of these carbohydrates, why these carbohydrates are important, you can see that the carbohydrates basically, even if we look at the plants or we look at the animals, you will find that both of them are having this and they require it for their survival. Okay. Now, they are like, even if we talk about our food item, the majority part of our food item is basically carbohydrate. Okay. And this carbohydrate has also been considered as a quick source of energy. This is also something like, if a person has to get energy instantly, then the main option which is available is, or the best option which is available is carbohydrates. Okay. Now, in the case of plants, we have seen that what is the role of cellulose. Okay. So cellulose is helping them in making the cell wall of the bacteria also and the plants also. Okay. Like if we are having some furniture or other items or cotton fiber, basically that is also coming from cellulose. So the fabrics which we are wearing, which is coming from the plants, okay, that is again containing this cellulose. Okay. At the same time, the different breweries, the lacquers, the textiles, the paper, they are also consisting of this carbohydrate only. So if we look at the health benefit, if we look from the health perspective, they are going to give us the energy for the body. Okay. They are also required to sleep in a better manner. Okay. So sleeping is also again due to this carbohydrate. They also help to prevent diseases, useful to control weight, and also important to keep the memory sharp. Okay. So this one concept, that carbohydrates or like other proteins or other things are required for memory sharpness. At the same time, even the carbohydrates are required in order to keep the memory sharp. Okay. So this is also one important aspect of it. Then, now normally this carbohydrate, if we are consuming some food, of course you know that food has its own attraction or its own charm. When you are like having so many problems, so many confusions or anything, and then suddenly you have this craving for food, and in that food, the majority part is of course coming from carbohydrate. Okay. So this is also helping in uplifting your mood. Okay. Provides the fiber to the body and improves even the digestive system. It also helps in improving the blood clot, and at the same time, even for athletes, the best nutrient is in form of carbohydrate. So again, this is one such substance which is quite much helpful from multiple dimensions as per our health. Okay. Then, if we talk about the other important biomolecules, we have one such molecule which is amino acids. Okay. Now, amino acids are again some organic compounds which are containing the NH2 group, the amino group. Okay. And in an acidic group is also there. Okay. And so basically they are also hydrocarbons, but they are consisting of a amino group and a acidic group. Okay. So due to which they have been called as amino acids. Okay. Now if we look at this, Basically, amino acids are, you can say that they are a raw material for making up of different proteins or enzymes in our body. In short, if we try to look at what is the role of amino acids in our body, they are used as a raw material for making up of proteins or even making up of different types of enzymes which are required for the proper functioning of our body. Okay. So in that manner, they are very much essential for our body. On the other hand, we have the proteins. Now, keep one thing in mind. Like last day we have seen, in the last video we have seen, if we talk about the cell is like having this DNA and RNA. And basically, there also you might have seen that if the cell has to fight certain thing, if the cell has to perform certain activity, they are making up of some proteins. Okay. So protein is one thing which is not just required for growth and development of the body, but even for functioning of each and every cell of our body. In order to perform any such function, they are going to require some proteins. They are going to synthesize some protein inside the body. Okay. So protein is one such regulator. Protein is one such biomolecule, which is like not just responsible for growth and development only, but also for performing the different functions of the body as well as at the microscopic level of the cells. Okay. So they are very much essential part of our body. Now, what are the major sources? You know that milk, cheese, lentils, peanut, fish, meat, they are the major sources of protein. Okay. And they have been called as the building blocks for the biological structure as well as operations. So along with the structure of the body, they are also responsible for the operation of the body, how the body is functioning, how the body is working. Okay. So even for that purpose, these proteins are required. Okay. Now, if we look at them, the most prevalent protein which is there, that is collagen. Collagen is the most prevalent protein in the animals. Okay. And then there is ribulose biphosphate carboxylase oxygenase. Okay. It is the protein that is also very much prevalent in our body. Okay. So this is one of the protein which is there. Okay. Then let us look at what functions are being performed by these proteins. What is the function of these? We have certain proteins here like collagen. Collagen is responsible for intracellular ground substance. Okay. And then trypsin is there. This is an enzyme. Insulin is again a hormone. You know that if there is fluctuation in insulin level, it can lead to diabetes. Okay. So this is again one of the very important things. Then if we talk about the antibodies which are there, antibodies are responsible for fighting against the different type of diseases. Okay. If any infection is occurring within the body, then antibodies are created. And antibodies are nothing but again a protein. There are two things. One is called antigen and antibody. Both are proteins. So the antigens of the bacteria or any other such microorganisms is neutralized by the help of antibodies. So again, antibodies is also a protein in our body. Okay. So it fight infectious agents. Then the receptors which are there, the sensory reception which is there, smell, taste, hormones, etc. They are all basically proteins. Okay. Then we also have GLUT4, and it is enabling the glucose transport into the cell. The transport of glucose into cells so that they can produce energy in the cells. That is again being done by the protein. Okay. Now, if we look at the role of proteins in our body, they help in muscle contraction and movement. Okay. So in the beginning, in the last page, we have seen that proteins are not just required for a structure, but also the operation of the body. So here again you can see they are responsible for supporting the muscle contraction and movement. Okay. At the same time, the digestive enzymes which are there, they help facilitate the various chemical reaction. So the digestion inside our body is again being done by the help of the proteins. Okay. Then providing the support to the body. Okay. The antibodies which are there, they are going to support the immune function. Okay. The expression of DNA and RNA. Okay. The DNA and RNA are again working on the basis of or on the use of proteins. Okay. So there also the DNA and RNA are expressed through proteins. Okay. Then after we can talk about the essential molecules which are moving around the body, the essential molecules which are moving inside the body. Again, there is the role of protein in it. We have just seen for moving the glucose, we again need a protein. Okay. In similar manner, even the hormones which are there inside our body, they are controlling the body functions. Okay. So they are all like responsible for making up the structure as well as running the operations or doing or performing various functions of the body. Okay. See, in short, what you can remember, proteins are responsible for almost all the things which are happening in our body. Suppose that if you are having some pain in your body, okay, if you are having some pain in your muscles, that is again because of development of some, let us say, some protein in there. And in order to neutralize that protein, then another protein can be made by the body or can be supplied from outside in form of medicines. Okay. So proteins are basically responsible even for the pain which is there and also the solution which can be there for the pain. Okay. If a bacteria is infecting us, they are also infecting us with the help of a protein which is called as antigen. And in order to fight that protein, again we are going to need an antibody which is again going to be a protein. Okay. So proteins are responsible even for the things which should not happen, like the problems or the infections which we get, and at the same time they are also responsible for fighting off these infections. So it is working in both manner. Okay. Then we have certain enzymes in our body. Enzymes are also basically sometimes called as globular proteins. Okay. Now these enzymes, they are basically acting as catalysts. They are basically acting as a catalyst. Now what is catalyst? Catalyst is a substance which is increasing the rate of any such chemical reaction. Catalyst is one such substance which is increasing the rate of any chemical reaction. So in similar manner, the enzymes which are there, they are helping in a lot of activities which are going inside our body. For example, the digestion process. When you see this digestion process, you will find that a lot of enzymes are being released inside the stomach, inside the small intestine, okay, from the different organs of the body. Pancreatic juice is being released, okay, bile is being released from liver. So a number of enzymes are being released by different organs of our body in order to run the different functions, okay, in order to digest the food, in order to enhance the digestion rate of the food. So this is all being done with the help of with the help of enzymes. Now, some of the nucleic acids are also there which can exhibit enzyme-like characteristics, and they have been called as ribozymes. Okay. So normally the enzymes are like proteins only, but then there are certain nucleic acids which can again behave as, or they can have some characteristics like the enzymes, and they have been called as ribozymes. Okay. Now they have also like a similar sequence, similar structure of amino acids and all. Okay. Then the another important biomolecule which we are having is fats. Okay. So if we talk about the fats, they are basically one of the three basic micronutrients, okay, along with the proteins and carbohydrates, which are one of the fundamental biomolecules in our body. The third very important biomolecule in our body is fat. Okay. Now, if we talk about this, they are a very important source of energy, and at the same time, they also help in absorption of the vitamins. Okay. So for even for the absorption of vitamins, we are going to need the fats. Okay. Now they are also very much important in controlling or maintaining the health or the weight of the body and prevention or postponing the different types of diabetes, especially the type 2 diabetes. Okay. So it depends on the fat consumption of the body. Okay. Then if we talk about the fats, you have to know one important thing about fat is they are generally insoluble in water. They do not dissolve in water. So that is one important aspect of the fats. They are generally insoluble in water. They are not going to dissolve in water. Okay. Then we also have lipids. Okay. If we talk about the lipids, lipid is basically a material that is soluble in alcohol and chloroform, but it is insoluble in water. Okay, this is something which is not soluble in water. Now, these lipids, they include triglycerides and cholesterol. Okay, and if we talk about them, the animals and plant body based fats, they have basically primarily made of these triglycerides. Okay, so the fats which are there in animals or plant, okay, the body fats which are there, they are made up of this triglycerides only. Okay, now let us see some of the type of fat and their health impact, and like what are the sources from which we are getting this fat. Okay, so if we talk about the first thing, we have some saturated fats. Like if we talk about their structure, you can find that they have a straight structure and they are generally solid at room temperature. Now if we talk about their impact, they can lead to increase of heart diseases, increased risk of heart diseases. Okay, they contain the low density lipoprotein LDL, and then they raise this low density lipoprotein and even the high density lipoprotein. Yeah. Now this low density lipoprotein is known as bad cholesterol and this is known as good cholesterol. Yeah. Then so ultimately it is there in order to increase the cholesterol. So on consumption of the saturated fats, there is going to be increasing level of cholesterol. Okay, and then it is recommended that less than 20 gram of saturated fat should be consumed on a daily basis. Okay, so its amount should not be exceeding more than 20 grams per day. Okay, what are the sources from which we are getting these saturated fats? Basically, we are getting it from the red meat, the buttercream, ice cream. Okay, so from these things we are getting these saturated fats. They are generally solid. Okay. Now there is another fat which is trans fat. It is also having a straight structure and it can be semi-solid or solid at the room temperature. Okay. So it is also sometimes known as hydrogenated fats. Okay. Now, if we talk about this, this is increasing the rate of heart disease. Okay. Increasing that risk of heart disease. This is responsible for raising the level of bad cholesterol, that is LDL, but it reduces the amount of good cholesterol. Okay. Now, so strokes and diabetes, they can be increasing due to consumption of this trans fat. Okay. Then after, if we talk about what are the sources which are there, the common things which we generally prefer: pizza, burger, french fries, chocolate, etc. So these are the generally in the present times they are being preferred more by the people, and they are one of the major sources of trans fats. Okay. And trans fats are responsible for increasing the bad cholesterol and decreasing the good cholesterol in the body. Okay. So higher risk of strokes or diabetes or heart disease can be there from overconsumption of the trans fat. Okay. Later on in this chapter itself, we will also talk about some of the strategies which have been adopted by the government in order to eliminate the use of trans fats. Okay. So at global level also there are some programs going on. So a bit later we are going to discuss about that also. Okay. Then we have certain monosaturated, or you can tell them as unsaturated fat. Okay. So here we have this. Suppose that if there is a moderate intake of this unsaturated or monosaturated fats, then it reduces the risk of heart disease. Now, it is responsible for lowering the bad cholesterol and increasing the good cholesterol. And what are the sources there? The peanuts which are there, the macadamia nut which is there, okay, then pecans which are there. So pecans, peanuts, macadamia nuts, they are the sources of this monosaturated fats. Okay, and it is considered good for our health if taken in moderate amount. Okay. Now, similarly, we also have the unsaturated fats in like where TED fats are there, where if we are taking this, it is again responsible for moderating the intake moderating the risk of heart disease. Okay. So again, it is responsible for moderating the risk of heart disease. Then it has also omega 3 to omega 6 ratio is quite good here. Okay. And it is responsible for reduced heart disease and anti-inflammation in the body. What are the sources here? We have flaxseed oil, we have also soybean oil, sunflower oil. These are the sources of this unsaturated fat again. Okay. Now, so we have just seen that the saturated and trans fats, they are basically the unhealthy fats. Okay. And the saturated fats, basically, they can be in solid form, like the fat which is present in the meat, it can be in solid form. Okay. Whereas the unsaturated fat, okay, there is one unsaturated fat also which is trans fat. Now this trans fat is like simply a liquid oil that has been converted into a solid fat. Okay. It has been done with the help of hydrogenation. With addition of hydrogen, it is converted into trans fat. For example, the dalda which is there. Okay. So that is one of the example of trans fat which is being used for a number of a number of things. For example, getting samosas and all, getting pakoras and all. So in that, the trans fats are being used. Okay. Then after, see, there is one more thing. If we talk about these trans fat, you will find that they are generally also being used in the bakery industry. Now, understand one concept here. If you see that, like normally, if you are having or if you are frying certain things at home, you'll find that if you're frying it in any oil, it will appear to you as oily. Why it is appearing oily? Because oil is in liquid medium, oil is liquid there. So the liquid particles are still on that fried thing. So it will appear to you as oily. You might think that it is not good for health. But on the other hand, you may purchase certain cookies or certain biscuits from outside, from the market. They might not be showing any such symptom of having any such oil or anything, because they have been prepared, many of them have been prepared using the trans fat. Now these trans fats are solid, so while you are heating them, of course they will turn into a liquid, they will help in frying of these things. But when you take out the substances from there, when you take out the fried things from there, now the liquid will again change into solid form. So it won't be appearing as oily, but it is consisting huge amount of trans fat. So there you may think that, okay, this is not appearing oily, so let's consume more and more. So there what would happen that you may end up using more trans fat. Okay. And trans fats are considered as unhealthy fats. We have seen that they can increase the bad cholesterol and they can reduce the good cholesterol. So higher risk of heart attacks or strokes or diabetes can be there due to excess consumption of the trans fat. Okay. Okay. So now we can see that in industries, the trans fats are being prepared by adding hydrogen to it. Okay. So we have this goal of eliminating the trans fat from general application. Okay. So we have one body in India, Food Safety and Standard Authority. Now it has set a limit on trans fatty acids in food products. It has set a limit that how much of trans fat can be used in the food particles. Okay. Now, what is the limit? You can see that it has been restricted to 2% by 2022. Okay. So first of all, trans fat in oils and fats, they have been restricted by FSSAI. Earlier, the level was 5%. It was reduced to 3%, and then by 2022, it has been reduced to 2% only. Okay. So this is one thing. Now, at the same time, by 2023, okay, WHO has this goal that the world food supply which is there, it is going to eliminate or it is going to reduce the use of industrially manufactured trans fatty acids. So WHO has this goal of eliminating it. India would be doing it a year before. Okay. So India has made this target of achieving it by 2022 itself. Okay. Now, trans fat consumption, if you look at it, trans fat consumption is responsible for around 77,000 deaths in India annually. Okay. So this is another important aspect of it. It is killing a large number of people. Now, moving on, we have certain nutrients which we can discuss here now. We have already discussed some of it. Like we have talked about the carbohydrates, we have talked about the fats, we have talked about the protein. Okay. So carbohydrate, it is basically responsible for providing the energy, supporting the digestive health and immune system. Okay. And immune system. And fats, they are supporting the various cellular function and structure. They are also helpful in regulating the temperature and protecting the body organs. Okay. Even they store energy in the body in form of fat. Okay. Then after the proteins, we have seen that they are very much essential for regulating the cell processes, supporting the mechanical and structural function, and also providing energy. Okay. So they are the macronutrients which we have seen. There are certain micronutrients also in our body which are very much essential. The first among them is the vitamins. Okay. They are supporting the cell function, the development and growth. Okay. They function as the antioxidants and they also help in absorption of other nutrients. Okay. Then minerals are there. Minerals are again going to support the bone, the muscular or the cardiovascular and nervous system function. They are also important in producing the enzymes, okay, and the different types of hormones which are there. So that is the role of the different minerals which are there. Okay. Then phytochemicals or phytonutrients. Okay. Now they may help in preventing certain chronic diseases. Okay. They have this anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial and antioxidant effect in the body. Okay. So we are going to again discuss the different types of micronutrients which are required for the body. Okay. There the first thing that we have now is the vitamins. Okay. So vitamins are needed in our diet in very small amount. But if they are not supplied, then there can be certain diseases or disorders in the body. Okay. These vitamins, they cannot be produced by our bodies, okay, but almost all can be produced by the plants. Okay. And that's why they are one of the very important nutritional components. Okay. So all these can be produced by the plants which are there. Okay. Now, some of the vitamins that we need, they can also be produced by the microorganisms which are present inside the body. Okay. Then, they are also regarded as organic substances. Okay. And you can see that they have been named as A, B, C, and D. Okay. We will here see that what are the different vitamins and if there is a deficiency of them, what problem can be there. Now, this one table is very much important. In some of the examination, you will find that they're asking questions about the deficiency. Okay. That deficiency of this vitamin leads to what? Okay. So we have one hand, we have this vitamin A. If there is this deficiency of vitamin A, then there is going to be night blindness. Okay. So that is one of the challenging aspects. Then vitamin B1, it is responsible for beriberi disease. Vitamin B2, then it is also responsible for araboflavinosis. Okay. If we talk about the vitamin B3, it is responsible for pellagra. Okay. If we talk about vitamin B5, then it is responsible for paresthesia. If we talk about B6, it is responsible for anemia also. Okay. Iron is also there. Okay. But along with iron, if there is deficiency of iron, then also anemia is there. But at the same time, if there is deficiency of vitamin B6, then also anemia can be there. Then vitamin B7, dermatitis and enteritis. Okay. They can be caused due to vitamin C, vitamin B7. Then vitamin B9 and B12, they are responsible for megaloblastic anemia. Okay. So their deficiency also causes this disease. If we talk about vitamin C, you know that it is responsible for scurvy and the swelling of gums. For the healthy teeth, we are going to need vitamin C. At the same time, the vitamin D which is there, if there is a deficiency of it, it can lead to rickets and osteomalacia. Okay. Similarly, we have vitamin E. If there is lesser amount of vitamin E, there is going to be lesser fertility of the person. then vitamin K is there. So if there is lack of this vitamin K, then the clotting of blood, it is going to be reduced. Okay. So for proper clotting of blood, the person needs adequate amount of vitamin K. Okay. Then there are certain minerals also, like chloride, which is there. It is helping in maintaining the proper blood volume. Okay. They are helping in maintaining the proper blood volume and blood pressure. And how they can be obtained or how we can get them? You can see we have seaweeds, tomatoes, the olives. Okay. So they are responsible for providing this chloride in the body. Then magnesium, it is supporting the muscle and the nerve function. And then fruits, vegetables, legumes, or low fat dairy, they can be used to get magnesium. Okay. The sodium, which is there, sodium is also regulating or helping to control the blood pressure and blood volume. Okay. And it is also needed for nerves and muscles to work properly. Okay. So normally you will find that sodium is commonly in our food due to the salt consumption. Okay. The sulfur, then again see, sulfur is also needed for protecting the cell and assisting with the metabolism process which goes on in the cell. It is also an important part of the amino acid structure or the protein structure. Then nuts, seeds, grains, chickpea, vegetables, these things are again sources of this sulfur. If we talk about the phosphorus, it is necessary for the cell membrane and bone structure. So phosphorus, see, four major things are there: carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur. They are the main ingredients of the living organism. So here if we talk about phosphorus, it is necessary for the cell membrane and bone structure. Okay. And about 85% of body phosphorus is found in bone mineral. Okay. So here we can get it from milk, beans, lentils, nuts, grains, etc. Then there is another mineral which is potassium, and it is helping with the nerve transmission and maintains the fluid status in cell as well as the muscle function. Okay. So they are also coming from the low fat dairy, fruits and vegetables. Okay. So these are certain minerals which are again required for the functioning of our body. Okay. If there is deficiency of these minerals, like suppose if there is deficiency of calcium, then there is going to be brittle bones or excessive bleeding. Now you know that iron is one such mineral which is, if it is deficient, it is going to cause anemia. Then if we talk about copper, it is responsible, if there is a deficiency, then the lower appetite can be seen in people. Okay. Even the retarded growth can be witnessed. Okay. Whereas if phosphorus is less, bad teeth and bones are there. We have seen phosphorus is very much important for the bone structure. Okay. And iodine, you know that the thyroid gland, it can be enlarged. There can be goiter also due to deficiency of iodine. Okay. So these are the different vitamins which we have seen. We have already talked about the iron thing. Okay. We have seen that anemia, it is affecting about 40% of children who are younger than 5 years of age and 30% of the pregnant women globally. Okay. Now, you can see one more thing, like maternal and neonatal death, means new child death. You can see that about 2.5 to 3.4 million deaths in the maternal or neonatal deaths are due to deficiency of iron. So deficiency of iron can cause problems in them. Okay. Then if we talk about this vitamin A deficiency has been related with the risk of blindness and death from infection. Okay. Infections like measles or diarrhea. Okay. And see, about 190 million preschool age children are affected due to this deficiency of vitamin A. Okay. If we talk about this vitamin D, you can see that it helps in strong bones. It helps in building of strong bones. Okay. So it helps in this vitamin D, it also helps in absorption of the calcium. Okay. And thus it helps in formation of strong bones. Okay. So osteoporosis, if it is happening in adults, it can be prevented if they are having adequate amount of vitamin D. Okay. Now, it also helps the immune system. So on the other hand, it is also helping the immune system to resist the bacteria or viruses. Okay. And it is required even for muscle and nerve function. Okay. And you know what is the main source of this vitamin D? The main source of this vitamin D is the sunlight. Okay. Of course, it is going to vary according to the geography or the location. Okay. It is going to vary according to that. It is going to vary according to the other factors like air pollution. But sunlight is considered as the major source of vitamin D. Okay. Then, if we talk about the iodine, this is something which is required during pregnancy and even the infancy for the growth and development of child, okay, for the cognitive development of child. And if you look at this, if there is deficiency of, if we talk about the global levels, it has been seen that around 1.8 billion people, they are having this insufficient iodine intake. Okay. Now, iodine is one thing, like you can see that now we are having, you might be hearing about that ad from your childhood, that iodine yukt Shuddh Namak. Okay. So basically, iodine, like the salt which we are consuming, it has been fortified with iodine. Okay. So fortifying salt with iodine has been a successful intervention. About 86% of households which are worldwide, they are consuming the iodized salt. Okay. So people can now get adequate amount of iodine intake. Okay. Even if they are consuming less amount of salt, even then they are getting sufficient amount of it. Okay. Now there is one thing. Okay. Like you can see that those women who are planning for pregnancy, they have been advised, they are being advised by doctors that if you are planning for pregnancy, you should be taking sufficient amount of iodine, because you know that iodine is very much responsible for the growth of the infants, for the growth or the cognitive development of the infants. So for that purpose, it is very much required. Okay. Then there is also this folate. Folate is basically this vitamin B9 which is there. Okay. And this is required in order to produce new cells on everyday basis. Okay. You know that we have trillions of cells in our body, and many of them are being like reproduced on daily basis. Okay. Many of them are dividing on daily basis. The new cells are being created. Okay. So for that purpose, we are going to need this vitamin B9. Okay. It is also responsible for healthy development of brain and spine. Okay. And if the folic acid supplements are being provided to women of the age 15 to 49 years, okay, then the neural tube defects or neonatal deaths can be reduced. Okay. So this is one important component of, again, this is again one important mineral which is required by the body. This is again one of the biomolecule which is required by the body, and especially for pregnant women it is required. Okay. So see, zinc is the another element which is helping to promote the immune function, and it is also helping to resist the infectious disease. Infectious disease like diarrhea, pneumonia, malaria, they can be resisted if zinc content is sufficient in the body. Okay. It is also important for healthy pregnancies. Okay. So again, you can see that a large number of people, around 17.3% of global population, is having this deficiency or risk of deficiency of zinc. Okay. Now, zinc supplements, it can reduce. Suppose that if zinc supplements are being provided, it can reduce the premature birth. It can decrease the childhood diarrhea. Okay. It can also decrease the cases of respiratory infections. Okay. Like all different causes which are there of death, it can help in reducing those problems. Okay. And it also help in increasing the weight or growth among the infants as well as younger children. So zinc is again one thing which is helping for child development, infant development. It is also important for pregnancies. Okay. It is also responsible for reducing the risk of various infection. So this is also one of the very important minerals which is required by our body. Okay. So see, in this chapter, we have discussed about these very important biomolecules which are there. We have first seen about the carbohydrates, we have talked about proteins, we have talked about fats, then we have talked about certain micronutrients which are there. We have seen the different vitamins which are there. We have seen that if the deficiency of vitamin is there, what diseases can be caused. Then we have talked about certain minerals also, like we have talked about phosphorus, we have talked about iodine, we have talked about zinc, etc. Okay. So they are some of the important biomolecules which are essential for our body. Now, from the exam perspective also, these different micronutrients or macronutrients are quite essential. Okay. See, especially they might forget to ask questions from macronutrients, but the micronutrients which are there, the minerals which are there, or the vitamins which are there, they are one of the favorite areas from where the examiners can ask the question. Okay. So you should be making the different tables for these. You can write on one side the sources, or you can write the deficiency or its role in the body. So you can make some tabular form, and there you can make suitable notes from it. Okay. So thank you very much. In the next session, we will be discussing other topics of this book, the Science and Tech book. We have discussed the first and the second chapter. Then we will discuss the other chapters in the next session. Thank you very much. All the best. Thank you.